sun was slowly sinking beyond the horizon, painting the western sky in gold and amber streaks as the railway tracks stretched endlessly into the barren land. Dust hung in the air, whispering stories of travelers and drifters, of men who left and never returned. That was where he saw her, bruised, broken, and lying beside the tracks, her dress torn and stained with dirt. She looked like a ghost of herself, trembling as though the world had taken every bit of strength she once had. The cowboy pulled his horse to a halt, the leather reins creaking, and dismounted with steady boots crunching against the gravel. His rugged face shadowed beneath a wide-brimmed hat, softened when his eyes fell on her. She flinched as he approached, her voice barely a whisper. "Please, don't hurt me." There was fear in her tone, the kind that only comes from betrayal, from being cast aside by those she once trusted. He crouched low, keeping his hands visible, his voice calm like the wind brushing through the prairie grass. "Darling, I ain't here to hurt you," he said, his tone carrying both grit and gentleness. "I found you here and I ain't the kind to walk away." Slowly he reached out and lifted her gently into his arms. Her body was fragile, every bruise telling a story of pain. Yet she clung to him like he was the first sign of safety she had seen in a long time. The rails hummed faintly in the distance, but his heart beat louder, protective and fierce. She tried to explain between broken breaths, words stumbling out like pieces of a shattered mirror, how she had trusted the wrong people, how she had been left behind without mercy, how she had nowhere to go. He listened without interrupting, his silence more powerful than words. For the first time in what felt like forever, someone was not judging her, not abandoning her, but holding her as if she mattered. As the stars began to appear overhead, he set her gently on his horse and climbed behind, keeping one arm secure around her trembling figure. "Your journey's with me now," he murmured, the promise rolling off his tongue like a vow sworn in blood and dust. They rode into the night, the tracks fading behind them, but a new path, hers and his together stretching ahead. Neither of them knew where it would lead, but in that moment, destiny had shifted. Two souls, one battered, one hardened by years of solitude, had crossed paths in the emptiness of the desert. And sometimes, the most broken beginnings hold the strongest stories. Morning light spilled across the plains, warming the land and brushing its glow against her weary face. She stirred awake to find herself wrapped in a blanket, the scent of firewood and wild sage drifting through the crisp air. The cowboy sat nearby, tending to a small fire, his hat tilted low but his eyes never straying too far from her. For the first time she felt something she thought was long gone: safety. Her body ached, her bruises still raw, but the fear that had haunted her had loosened its grip. "You slept good," he said in his gravelly drawl, handing her a tin cup of warm coffee. She accepted it with trembling hands, nodding silently. The warmth seeped into her, not just from the drink, but from the way he looked at her. Not as someone broken, but as someone worth protecting. They began their journey across the open land, the horse carrying them both while the endless sky stretched above. She spoke in fragments about her past, how dreams had led her to strangers, how trust had been twisted into chains, how she had lost faith in kindness. Each word was a burden lifted, and he never once looked away. His silence was a shield, his presence a steady anchor. As they traveled, the land itself seemed to shift with them. Fields of wildflowers swayed in the wind, rivers glistened like mirrors, and mountains stood tall in the distance, as though daring her to rise again. With every mile, her spirit began to mend. She noticed the way he treated the smallest things. The horse with respect, the land with reverence, and her with unspoken care. When she stumbled, he was there to steady her. When the night grew cold, he made sure the fire burned brighter. And when shadows of doubt crept into her heart, his steady words, "You're not alone anymore," cut through the darkness like a knife. One evening, as they camped near a quiet stream, she asked him why he helped her. His eyes, rugged and scarred from years of hardship, softened as he replied, "Because I've been lost before too. Someone once gave me a hand when I was down, and I reckon it's my turn to do the same." Tears welled in her eyes, but this time they were not born from sorrow. They were tears of gratitude, of hope, of a future that once seemed impossible. She leaned into him, not as a broken woman, but as someone finding strength in a bond that was becoming unshakable. The cowboy knew the road ahead would not be easy. Life never was. But as he looked at the woman beside him, he knew one truth with certainty. Their paths had merged, and together, they would carve out a story of resilience and redemption. The railway tracks where she had been found were now just a memory, a place where her old life had ended and a new one had begun. And every sunrise from then on whispered the same vow he had spoken on that fateful night. Your journey's with me. And as you listen to this story, remember, life has a way of breaking us down, but it also has a way of lifting us back up through the people we least expect. If this story touched your heart, make sure to subscribe to the channel because many more tales of strength, hope, and destiny await you here.